In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast, me and my brother James, we are going to discuss the rookies from the 2023 NBA draft class. It's been about a month, so rookies have, at least 15 games, 10 to 15 games under their belt. So we are going to discuss some of the surprises and the large number of rookies who were selected in the lottery who have already played minutes in the G League. Stay tuned. And this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the easiest and the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. So go to prizepicks.com/lockedonnba, but it has to be all lowercase. And you can get a first deposit match up to $100. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, the director of scouting for NBA Big Board. And to my left, but maybe on your right, on YouTube is my brother James. We're going to talk about the rookies. But first, man, how was your Thanksgiving?
Man, it was good, man. I cooked, man.
Oh, man, I didn't cook. I just ate, took the family up back home, see mom and dad. And, yeah, man, it was a good Thanksgiving. Just got back last night. But anyway, I was still watching basketball. And I thought this would be the appropriate time to talk about the rookies. We did one after like maybe the first week or so, the first few games. And so some things have changed since then. But let's start off at the top.
All right.
Wembanyama, has he met or exceeded expectations so far? Or is he about where you thought he would be?
I feel like he's met expectations. I think I talked about on the first podcast we gave the rookie preview. He'd be at 21 a game. He's at 19. And he's being handcuffed right now by, point guard play. So I think 21 is still very possible. He has the talent to do so. You'll take 19 and 9, and I think he's at
like 2 point. I know he's like top 5 in blocks.
Yeah,
and
2.6 blocks.
And I want to say he's among the league leaders, if not in stocks and blocks and steals.
He had a 10-stock game against the Nuggets the other night.
10 stocks?
Yeah, he had 10 stocks against the Nuggets, 6 steals and 4 blocks.
Maybe that game was late and I missed it. Maybe I was asleep. But I knew that he had a monster defensive night, but I didn't know that was the final tally.
Yeah,
10 stocks is crazy. All right, Rookie of the Year. So we talked about it being a two-man race between him and Chet. I know you're probably going to say Chet just from knowing you, but do you think that...
Well, I said they're going to give it to Wemby because he's going to do something on a nightly basis that just doesn't flat out make sense. But Chet is going to be up there because he's going to be productive on the better team. He's a seamless fit, and like everything is just laid out for him on top of all the talent that he has. If I had a vote today, it probably would be Chet because he is amazing in his own.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Like that 38-point game against Embiid, like that means a lot. And like he's so efficient right now. Like you can't knock a guy that's shooting like 50, 90.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What I'm starting to think now what will happen is because the Spurs are so bad. How many games have they lost in a row? Like 10?
And they've been blown out like by 20 the last I don't know how many times. It's bad.
Yeah, and everybody's focusing on how bad Detroit is, but not how bad San Antonio is because everybody likes Wemby. I'm starting to think now Chet's efficiency numbers have to drop. He can't maintain these shooting splits for a whole season. If he did, that would be like the most efficient
so
season.
If he's a 50, 40, 90 guy, because I don't see the 50% dropping. Right? So now, so he did drop. He's at 56, 43, and 88.
If he's 50, 37, 80, that's remarkable for a rookie. Some people may say asterisk by his rookie.
How do you feel about that? Is that
asterisk? I think there is an advantage of having a year under your belt in a sense with the travel. You can't simulate the playing, you can't simulate the physicality, but I do think it is somewhat of an advantage. Just like having an advantage as a red shirt in a sense.
That's true.
So I don't think it makes that big of a difference. I just think you're more accustomed to like the professional life, the travel, the schedule, which does play a role. But what you're doing on the court, I don't think it makes that big of a difference. But I did think Donovan Mitchell should have won Rookie of the Year over Ben Simmons.
I agree with you.
But I'm not a Ben Simmons guy, so there may be a little bit of bias there. But what I think is going to happen now is that they're just going to do co-rookie, like Jason Kidd and Grant Hill, because their team records are so far apart. Like, it would be hard to give Wembanyama Rookie of the Year if his team wins 18 games and Chet's team wins 56 games and their numbers are similar. And to me, their numbers aren't, for obviously the efficiency is totally different. And so I just think we're looking at a co-rookie of the year.
I'm not mad at a co-rookie of the year. Like, if it's two guys playing at that level and it's close, like, why not? I don't think you should penalize Wembanyama for the situation that he's in. I mean, it's not his fault Pop won't play a point guard next to him. And, he's playing well, like, in spite of that. So,
yeah.
And again,
and I think they need to just play him at center, man. Just go ahead and let him run pick and rolls.
I think
you're not going to stop Jokic or Embiid anyway.
Nah.
Zach Collins, no disrespect to you, but
they just paid Zach Collins.
Yeah, they
too.
just paid him. But Wembanyama's the center of the future. I think because he is versatile enough to where he can play, I guess, multiple positions. I think at the end of the day, his best position, and you want to close games with him at the 5.
They said Giannis was asked about his development, and he said that it's best for him to just let him go out there and do whatever he wants, and then kind of figure it out, because that's what they did with Giannis. Like, he played point guard one year, and eventually he settled into the playmaking power forward that he is. But with those guys who just got it, like, I get that, but at the same time, like, I looked it up, and this may not be 100% like up to date, but like at 1.8% of all his plays, according to Synergy, Wembanyama was only used as the roll man.
Yeah,
which is crazy. Like, he's shooting. I think he's cut down on some of the moving 3-pointers.
Yeah,
and he's starting to pick and pop. But like, just having a point guard, using him as a role man. Like, he had a play against the Nuggets, man. He dunked from the dotted line off a roll. Like, nobody.
Yeah, he did have a play where he dunked.
He tried to baptize. Who was that?
Reggie Jackson.
Was it Reggie Jackson? He tried to put somebody in the
can. No, he missed it. Yeah, he missed it.
He missed it.
I know you're talking about. But I did see him have a play where he dunked from the free throw line. 2 hands.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, and then another example. So when they did play the Nuggets, Sohan, it was a 3-on-2 fast break. And Sohan dribbled to the guy on the wing instead of just throwing it up to Wemby. Like, he got the and one because, he's 7'12" with, a guard underneath him, but like, I still think that there's like 4 to 5 points a game. He just doesn't
leaving on the table
because he doesn't have somebody to play point guard.
Yeah, and I think naturally they'll settle into their normal positions. Victor's going to be the 5. Jeremy Sohan is going to be the 4. And I think if Sohan develops as a passer this year, it's going to be beneficial down the line because maybe you'll be able to run some 4 or 5 pick and rolls when you have a point guard. But on one hand, it's like, I get what Pop is probably thinking long term, help Sohan develop as a ball handler and a passer, and then he becomes a weapon when he's like your 3rd or 4th ball handler and passer. But you're sacrificing some points for Wembanyama, who is
I got a question for you.
The dude right now.
Since we do talk about, this is a rookie review and we talk about the draft, and you said that Wembanyama is a 5. What happens if you're the Spurs and you land the number 1 pick again and you say Ausar is the best player? Do you think they can work out together?
Yeah. That would be great for marketing. You get another French guy
the French connection
on the team or whatever. Yeah, I think you could interchange them, especially if one of the two develops into a reliable shooter. I think that the promise of them being shooters is like the most intriguing. But I think that if both can space the floor, then you really got something there because you got 2 shot blockers, you got 2 long athletic dudes who can move. You be able to switch a lot, protect the paint.
You want to talk about a 4 or 5 pick and roll.
Yeah, because Sar's a really good passer too. I mean, Victor's a good passer. He likes to throw that wild wind up pass, and I think it just takes too long to get there at sometimes. But yeah, I mean, I think that would be a very good situation. But it would be interesting because point guard is their most glaring need, and Sar's not a point. And then you would have to wonder, all right, can you turn Sohan into a 3? I think he's best used long-term as a 4. So that would be a pretty interesting dilemma there. All right, when we return, we're going to talk about Scoot Henderson, who has returned from injury. Had a good game a couple days ago. I guess it was yesterday against the Milwaukee Bucks. That was probably the best. Well, I shouldn't say probably. It was without a doubt the best that he's looked in this injury-plagued season. So stay tuned to hear our thoughts on Scoot Henderson, and we're going to talk about Brandon Miller, and then we're also going to talk about the guys that were selected in the lottery that have found themselves in the G League. Stay tuned. Before I get into the second segment, I want to talk to you about Prize Picks. Why Prize Picks? Well, Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. All you have to do is pick 2 to 6 players, and it is you versus the projected numbers. And what Prize Picks is doing different this year is they have what they call the community plays where you can pick combos. So, for example, you can pick LeBron James versus Travis Kelce at 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made and receptions. And Prize Picks offers a reboot policy. Now, this is cool. It's the reboot policy to where that if your entry stay in play, even if one of your players gets injured. So, for example, if you have a guy that gets injured in the first half and he doesn't return to the second half, he automatically gets rebooted. And Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an insurance policy. So go to prizepicks.com/locked-on. Again, prizepicks.com/locked-on, and it has to be all lowercase. And if you go to prizepicks.com/locked-on, you can get a first deposit match up to $100. All right, second segment. We left off, I guess I teased Scoot Henderson. What has been your thoughts on Scoot so far? I mean, I know he missed a significant amount of time with the injury. He's actually been pretty injury prone the last year.
What did he go down with this recent one?
Ankle.
Okay.
But last year he missed the second game of the Scoot Wembanyama showcase with an injury. Then he had like a nasal fracture injury. And then he had like a concussion, I believe. Then he had like another ankle injury. Like he's had some small nagging injuries. But before the injury, he was really struggling. He comes back with goggles, and they're saying maybe that was
you can see
the reason why the shooting was so bad. I mean, it was like 8% from 3.
Yeah,
but he had a good
trash.
game against the Portland Trailblazers. Maybe there was some motivation. I mean, yeah, against the Bucks. I was thinking Damian Lillard. It's still hard for me to not say Damian Lillard and Portland Trailblazers in the same sentence. I didn't see it, but they said like Dame like dapped out all the players on the team before the game.
No?
Except Scoot, but then I saw a picture of them.
Dame had some bars for him, dog. Before, like right after the trade, something can't replace me, man. You know.
Yeah, that was a little sneak diss. But I mean, I'm a Dame fan. I'm a Blazers fan, but I mean, like,
it is what I mean. They didn't ship you off to.
Yeah,
to
but I mean, like,
it did you a solid, man.
No, man. If I want to go to Miami, I want to go to Miami.
Man, look, you making 55. You can buy part of Miami.
No, man, like my man was going through a divorce. He thought he was gonna be in Miami single. Man. What's the weather in Miami right now? And what's the weather in Milwaukee?
They're not the same.
Dame wanted to win in Miami. So, I mean, of course, you know, the outside. Hey, man, you're making a lot of money. You're going to get a chance to play with Giannis. But I've had some friends tell me that played in Milwaukee, and they were like, that was a very depressing.
Well, look, hey.
But anyway, Scoot, what are your thoughts on Scoot so far?
You know what? I don't know. Give me. I know, but I want to. So last game against Milwaukee, he looked confident.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was letting the ball go with confidence. He shot a 3 on Dame. Every point guard looks like they see Dame and the confidence goes up. But that's another story.
Yeah.
But he shot a pull-up 3 on Dame with confidence. He had a corner 3. He was wide open, but he shot it, like, with confidence. So, like, the main thing that I've seen between the game back versus those first however many games that he played, he just looks like a confident shooter.
Yeah.
And
because he was 1 for 8 or 7 his first game back.
But numbers aside, like, teams were daring him to shoot, and he didn't.
I would dare him to shoot too.
But he didn't want to shoot. Like, and it's like, okay, you work on your game, because you can tell he works on the shots that he takes. It's just not going in. Maybe he's not the true shooter that, whatever. But, like, he just didn't look like a confident player before. Maybe taking that break, sitting down, and then unfortunately Brogdon got hurt, right? So now he's sitting next to Brogdon, and he's like, "Hey man, see this, see that, see that," and maybe like this is gonna help him out long term, because again, there's nowhere to go but up as far as his shooting, because he was one of the worst shooters like ever those first however many games he played.
I've been actually a little disappointed with his progression as a shooter over the years. His rookie year in the G League, I thought like, okay, he's adjusting from the high school line to the NBA three-point line, which is a major, major adjustment. He skipped a step. Mm-hmm. Last year, the percentages weren't bad, but I felt like the numbers lied, if that makes sense.
Explain that to me.
I want to say he shot like 34% from 3, but I did not think he was a 34% shooter. I think he had like a streak where he was efficient, but I felt like the number, I just didn't think he was a 34% shooter from 3, even though that's what the numbers said. I know for some that may not make sense. Like, I can give you an example of how the numbers can lie in another direction. Like, I want to say Luka Doncic was like a 33% three-point shooter, but he's not someone you're leaving open. He's dangerous as a shooter.
Trae Young is like a career 33% three-point shooter.
Yeah.
But you 100% honor his three ball.
Right. I didn't feel like
you're not
Scoot
guarding him as a non-shooter, that's how teams are guarding Scoot right now.
Yeah.
Like, I saw when they played the Raptors, whatever night that was, like
earlier this season before he got hurt.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he shot.
Schroeder was like fighting his hardest to go underneath the screen.
And he shot. There was one particular play where he was on the left, like wing or slot, and they ran a ball screen. Scoot went under.
Schroeder
went under, and Scoot shot an air ball.
Yeah, and
at one point he had more air balls than made threes.
That stuff messes with your head too.
It does.
But you know what though? I'm gonna shoot Scoot some bail, because the most reliant position to me, tied to shooting, is point guard. Because if your point guard can't shoot, you mess up everything. Because like, if we're going underneath, then your roll man is less effective, right? When we go underneath, that means the court shrinks. And the court shrinks, like, unless you John Wall, where you can just take off from the foul line, or Ja Morant.
That's why I always thought
it's
Philly
hard.
Never advanced far in the playoffs, because with Ben Simmons as your point,
exactly,
you go under, and then it wasn't like he was ducking in and making you pay and all that. But that's a whole.
And then it's not like he's putting a ton of rim pressure.
Not in the half court.
Not in the half court. So not just Scoot, but like, when we talk about these other point guards, like, if that shooting doesn't hit, man, it's gonna be hard to be successful.
Yeah,
like, that puts the biggest like ceiling on your development, is whether or not you can shoot. Not just catch and shoot, but just off the dribble, because it's a pick and roll league.
Yeah, you got to shoot off the dribble.
You have to be able to shoot off the dribble.
Yep. Brandon Miller.
Yeah.
Brandon has played well. The 3-point shooting hasn't been as efficient as I thought it would be, but it's creeping up. He's about 34%. But he's had some really good games in the last 5 games. He's coming off the bench, which it's weird to see a guy that was the number 2 pick coming off the bench. And we've talked about it on previous podcasts. Like, if they want to move Hayward, then you got to play him. And I know this is like off subject a little bit. I don't like talking about him, but Miles Bridges, for a guy that didn't play a year, there's absolutely no rust in his game. I mean, it's like, 20 points, 8 rebounds, like 50-40.
It has nothing to do with him being a basketball player. It's that off the court stuff.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's no rust. I don't think
which is amazing.
It's amazing. Have they played a road game since he's been back? I don't know.
Hey, well, I mean, the home crowd.
The home crowd's going
surprisingly cheered for him.
But it is. I want to see his road splits after like 10 games to see how those fans imagine if he plays in the Garden they're gonna treat him like trash.
Oh yeah, but American crowds aren't hostile.
No, they're not hostile. But
if he played in Belgrade,
you're not gonna catch a battery to the head.
Belgrade or
shoot,
somewhere
Utah
like
hostile. You heard what these dudes been saying about Utah?
Yeah, I mean, but that's minor. I mean, that's totally minor compared to games in Europe. Like I've been at a game where I didn't know what they were saying, and I can't repeat it, but I was filming, trying to create some social media content for Instagram, and they were like, you can't use that footage. And I was like, why? They was like, well, because the entire crowd is chanting something about a player's mom.
Oh.
Not like one or two fans. I'm talking like the crowd in unison.
Yeah.
And this was an hour before the game. Because I was filming the pregame Instagram content 30 minutes before tip-off, yada, yada, yada. So, but anyway, Brandon Miller has played well. I think the shot is coming along. He's been efficient as far as his field goal percentage. He's at 46%.
Yeah.
They finally, I feel like, got him out the corner. I felt like earlier in the season he was just in the corner boy, but now they kind of got him in some action. Man, he's rebounding. He's been a good defender, and I just think that it's hard not to like a 6'9" wing that can handle, that can shoot, that can attack a closeout, that can defend multiple positions. I think Brandon Miller is going to be really successful.
Yeah, he looks good. He's playing very well. My concerns with him when he got drafted, I wasn't worried about the summer league stuff because that team was all time bad, but he got to his spots. I hate to say it, but it's going to come down to him making shots, and he's been making shots. Those athleticism concerns need to be thrown out the window because in space, he's an overrated. Athlete. He's a very good athlete in space.
Yeah, I mean, he's not. I think he was undervalued as an athlete because he was in the same class as the Thompson twins and Scoot and Victor. Those were the guys that were surrounding him. And then at the time, you thought Cam Whitmore was a top 5 pick, and he's just not the same.
I gotta take
twitchy athlete.
Athleticism sometimes can be overrated, man.
Yeah,
I care more. I care more about your skills than your athleticism because I don't care if you can jump 45 inches off the ground if, for one, you're not a game time athlete, and two, all you can do.
Was a guy, one of the Zellers?
He had a 40-inch vertical.
Yeah, I mean, he was just a combine freak, but it just wasn't functional.
It doesn't exactly. So it's like, are you jumping 40 inches off the ground in space? No. How long does it take you to get off the ground in space? So I think athleticism, in a sense, can be athleticism, combine measurement, to an extent, wingspan. Sometimes you just got to throw that stuff not out the window, but it only tells a small part of the story. What's Luka's wingspan? Does anybody know? Does anybody care?
Just a hooper.
He's just a basketball player. LeBron is a great athlete. Do we know we don't even know how much he weighs.
No, he's past that.
All right. Past that.
When we return, we got to talk about the Thompson twins, which only one of them is playing, but I also want to talk about the guys that are in the G League, from Jarris Walker to Grady Dick to Jett Howard, and we can talk about Bilal Coulibaly. We got to talk about Jaime Jaquez, who has definitely outplayed where he was selected. Stay tuned. As the weather gets colder, the offers get hotter on FanDuel. Right now, if you are a new customer, you get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That is $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there is not a better time to join than right now, because the FanDuel app is very simple, is very easy to use, and they have a wide range of betting options, which include spreads, player props, overs, unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and the official sportsbook of Locked On and the NFL. Or maybe I should say the official sportsbook of the NFL and Locked On. All right, last segment. I want to talk about the Thompson twins. Well, Amon's not playing. He's hurt. But real quick, what do you think his role will be in the rotation when he returns? Because Houston is playing well.
Houston's in the 8th spot.
They're playing really well.
Right now.
Do you, if you're the Rockets, if you're Rafael Stone or Ime Udoka, you got a guy that you drafted inside the top 5, your team is playing well, do you take somebody out the rotation so he can get his developmental minutes? Do you send him to RGV, to the Vipers? I mean, do you kind of say it's a rehab stint, but you let him get loose there? What do you do? I mean, this is your opinion. What do you do?
I'm sending him to the G League, man. No, I wouldn't even disguise it as a rehab stint. I don't personally believe in the stigma of the G League being a demotion, especially for a young guy who has flaws in his game. And unfortunately for him in his development, right now, the Rockets are they're not a pushover right now.
No. And
they're gonna compete for a play-in spot. Şengün is here.
Yeah, he's been here though.
I mean, he's here. He's here with a coach that knows that he's here every night. So I wouldn't even say that. I'm just look, man. Hey, when you're ready, we will call you back up. Right now, we need you to get better. Focus on getting better because you got to think long term as a prospect. Hey, man, you still get paid the same. Yes, the conditions aren't as good, but I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to think about my second contract, not necessarily my first contract. And right now, we just log jammed at the wing position, and I don't buy him as a point guard right now.
But if you send him to RGV, are you playing him at the point?
I'm playing him at the playmaker. So if that looks like point guard, cool. But he's going to get all the reps that he needs to get better. And again, I don't look at it as a demotion. I look at it as an opportunity.
Well,
but I'm 30. I'm 38.
People will. I saw Scoot was sent as a rehab stint or assignment, but he didn't even play, just practice there. And I looked at the comments. I was like, okay, people don't get it.
He's just there to get in shape.
Yeah. Let's talk about his twin brother, Ausar Thompson.
What did I tell you about Ausar?
I look, you were right about Ausar.
Give my flowers, B.
I'm going to give you your flowers. I feel like I was right, too, that it was an absolutely horrible fit for Cade Cunningham.
Free Cade.
I mean, I just thought it was a horrible fit for Detroit. I just didn't think adding another non-shooter to that team is going to make them better. Now, he's played well. I mean, he's rebounding, he's defending. I mean, the field goal percentage isn't bad. I mean, he's just not making outside shots. He's playing well, but I just don't know how they're going to coexist with that.
I have the answer.
What, put him at the dunker spot?
Absolutely.
All right, but then what do you do with everyone else? So, you put Isaiah Stewart, you have him camp out?
You can have Isaiah Stewart as the corner, the new corner boy. He could be the Bodie, right? Okay. And you got to put Ausar in the opposite dunker, and you got to have Duren be the screener, right? And then when no wiggle Bogdanovich is back, then you have another wing guy. Or, I mean, I haven't looked at his splits, but Ivy's there. You got to get Killian Hayes out of the way because him and Ausar together don't mix.
Well, I don't know if him and Ivy mix. I don't know. I mean, I saw a play where it was, I forgot which game it was. It was last week. It came down to the last possession. Cade had the ball, and Ausar was in the corner, but he didn't even make himself available. I mean, I don't know why he's on the floor at that point anyway on the offensive end, but it was his man was I know Cade isn't making this pass, and I know he's not going to shoot it. So he was all the way in the paint. And I'm a big Cade fan. I believe in Cade, even though Cade is not shooting the ball like he shot in college. But I think if the Pistons believe he is their franchise guy, they have to surround him with complementary pieces.
I agree with that.
And while I think Thompson is going to be good, and I still think his best position I still think you get the most out of him if you give him more ball handling duties. I just still don't like that fit together.
I get it, but you can't argue with a dude that's averaging 11, 10, and 3 with no jump shot. Like,
no,
he's productive. I told you.
But are they? I mean, I know Detroit. Well, they thought they were going to take a step forward in winning, and they've been. I mean, Bogdan. Well, they've had some injuries, so I can't say that.
And Duran has been in and out of the lineup.
Been in and out of the lineup, but they're frustrated right now.
They should be. They trash right now.
Yeah, and then I don't even know, like, if they win the lottery, like, who's the guy that you can plug in and be like, this is going to help them get better next year.
You're right. They're going to have to do some shifting.
I just don't like their pieces. All right, let's talk about, real quick, Keyonte George, who's been starting. The shot isn't falling, but he's really shown that he was very undervalued as a passer. What are your thoughts on Keyonte?
He's looked good as a starter, as a playmaker. I had questions. I thought he was going to be one of the guys that because, Utah has a bunch of guards, and he has emerged. Or at least he's getting his opportunity to show what he can do.
Yeah.
I know.
Based off Summer League.
Yeah.
Not where he was drafted. Strictly based off of Summer League. Cause,
hey, man, we don't have to talk about it, but the Raptors probably should have taken him. It's way too early, but, like, if you want to go upside versus, like, fit, they should have took Keyonte. But Keontae's averaging 5 assists a game.
Yeah.
And it's like he had a play. He threw a left hand Marbury no look.
No,
he can pass.
He can pass, and that was considered like his biggest question. Like, I remember talking to a scout last year before the season started, and he was like, he's a guy that is shot first, second, third. He never thinks to pass. So I think he's played well. All right, lastly, before we run out of time, Bilal Coulibaly.
Okay.
I think that he's played well. I think he's exceeded some expectations. Yeah. I think if you would have came into the season and said, all right, which lottery pick is going to be the first one in the G League, I think people probably would have voted him because he was younger.
It's about opportunity.
But then, the Wizards stink. But Jarris Walker.
I'm not surprised he's in the G League.
Taylor Hendricks.
Definitely not surprised.
Grady Dick and Jet Howard have all seen minutes in the G League.
Let me not surprised, not to say that they can't play, or it's just where they were drafted at. And again,
I didn't like any of the Orlando.
Yeah. It's not about. I'm not surprised Taylor Hendricks is in the G League because he can't play. I'm saying I'm not surprised because they had 4 power forwards on the roster already. Yeah. Same with Jarris Walker. They already have 3s and 4s in whatever position Bruce Brown plays. And they're trying to win. So them being in the G League doesn't surprise me. And again, it's about coming back, working on your game, and getting better. And then when your opportunity does come, is what do you do with it? It's not, to me, it's not a demotion.
Right, I agree. All right, you know what? Let's do an entire episode, maybe sometime next week, where we talk about the 2023 class and the guys in the G League.
Okay.
And then where we see guys in the 24 class, how many of those guys, just predicting, are going to spend their rookie years in the G League? Because I just fired off a tweet. Based off what I'm seeing from this 24 class, I think a lot of those guys, unless you go to the perfect fit, like your Livelies or...
True.
Or I'm trying to think who else went to an ideal fit, like an ideal fit. Maybe Keyonte, but he kind of played his way into that situation with the strong, dominant play in Summer League. But for this 24 class, if the guys don't have a perfect fit, I think they're going to be in the same.
A perfect fit. If you're not drafted by the Wizards or the Spurs, yeah.
And even if you get drafted by the Wizards, and if you're like a point guard, they're still, and if they don't have Jordan Poole off the roster, he's going to play. If they don't have, Coulibaly's going to play. You figure Avdi is going to play. You figure Kuzma, if he's on the roster, is going to play.
Kisper is going to play. He's still young, too.
So,
but, it looks like when Chicago does do the right thing and blow that thing up, Chicago, Washington, Memphis, San Antonio.
I don't even know about Memphis. All right, before we get, that's a whole.
Okay, go ahead.
Jaime Jaquez. Exceeded expectations.
I wouldn't say he exceeded expectations because he came in ready to play and he can play, and I don't question anything Miami does. They get it right almost every time. So when have they not got it right?
They paid Whiteside $100 million.
Man, that was years ago.
Right. Yeah, they usually get it right.
But let me tell you about Jaime Jaquez, though. I think he's going to open the door, especially in this upcoming draft, for an older guy to not get looked past because he can play right now. And, like, forget that upside stuff. Like, if you can play and you check those boxes, like, you have an opportunity to play.
Yeah, I always thought he could play. I just thought maybe it was his style of play because he got the ball in like the mid post, and I just didn't know, if teams are going to give him the keys to play the same way that he was successful playing at UCLA. Well, that wraps up this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast. Once again, thank you, the listener, for making NBA Big Board your first listen of the day. Once again, this is Rafael Barlowe, my brother James. We are out. We have another episode coming up soon. And we're going to have other episodes on Isaiah Collier, Rob Dillingham, and we have so much planned. I know we're trying to do 5 episodes a day at the for the month, but we're probably going to do more because we got a lot of content. Once again, it's Rafael with James, and we are